called the estrobolome.
Estrobolome.
And the microbiome and how that relates to estrogen. Can you talk about that a little? I think it's sort of novel, and we actually look at that in our practice at the UltraWellness Center.
Yeah, so one of the things that we know is that when we package up and detoxify estrogen, one of the primary routes of excretion is in the gut. So what's going on in your gut can influence how efficiently you can clear estrogen metabolites out of your system. We also know that your gut microbes can make hormones themselves. So depending on the balance of your gut microbes, you might have more or less circulating hormones. Who knew, right?
Yeah.
That's really been seen in women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, for example, that the gut microbiome influences the level of the androgens, the more male hormone-like metabolites.
Yeah. There's a whole thing called the enterohepatic circulation, which is from the gut to the liver and back. And usually when you finish with your hormones, you poop them, you go through your liver, they go through your bile, they go into your gut, and you poop them out.
Right.
But sometimes they don't all get out and they get reabsorbed. Can you talk about that and why that's a problem?
Yeah. So one example of something we would see on a stool test that we would do is an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase.
Yeah.
And beta-glucuronidase is produced when we have an imbalanced gut microbiome. So certain microbes will produce this enzyme. Why is that important? Well, we've talked about methylation of estrogen, but glucuronidation is another pathway by which we kind of package up those estrogen metabolites and stress hormones and some toxins to allow them to get excreted in the stool. Well, if you have a microbiome that's secreting high amounts of this enzyme beta-glucuronidase, guess what? Kind of unpackages everything and allows recirculation of estrogen, stress hormones, and toxins. So it adds more burden to the detoxification systems.
And what's so amazing, when you start to pay attention and you watch this, and we've done this for decades, you see someone with a high beta-glucuronidase, you see someone who's got a higher recirculation, absorption of estrogens, you see that they're symptomatic from it, meaning they have estrogen dominant symptoms of breast tenderness, fluid retention, migraines, heavy bleeding, clots, all that stuff. And when you treat the gut and you clear out the bad bugs that are causing this enzyme to be produced, because that's what bacteria do, they produce molecules and metabolites and enzymes, and there's millions of them in there, billions, trillions, probably like 40 trillion bacteria, and they're all doing that. And so some of these are bad, some of them are good. And when it does that, it kind of causes more problems. And we can actually treat the gut as a way of treating hormonal dysregulation.
That's so important. Who would have thought, right?
Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff you're not getting when you go to your gynecologist, right? It's really the things that we're doing are not like eat your wheatgrass and get a coffee enema and everything can be fine. This is deep science we're talking about. It's not stuff that's not in the National Library of Medicine, PubMed. It's not evidence-based. We talk about evidence-based medicine. We don't have evidence-based medicine. We have reimbursement-based medicine. And what we're doing is taking a look at the literature and trying to close that gap of 20 or 30 or something, 50 years from when we know something to when we do it. And so we've been seeing the clinical results of this for decades in these cohorts of women. And it's revolutionized our care and their lives and their health. And I think it's so important. So you're talking about, Cindy, is really a very methodical way of unpacking a personalized map of each person's life history, their psychology, their biology, their genetics, their microbiome, their toxin levels, their nutritional status, all of it. And that gives us then a direction about what to do and where to go with these people and how to understand how to take the right steps to create the balance that leads to the resolution of symptoms. So we're not necessarily treating a disease per se. We're treating dysfunction or imbalance. Like having a high beta-glucuronidase is not a disease, but it's a deviation from optimal function. And so we can kind of get people back towards that. And then, hormones start to regulate. And I think it's amazing when you start to fix all the other things. Hormones kind of go back into line. Like they often go back into line without needing to take hormones or take drugs. And it's not that they're bad or we don't use them, and we're going to talk about how we use them, but often you kind of start with all that stuff first and then you see where you are, right?